for the Aravaipa Cocodona lead-in series. Today we're joined by two first-timers. We have John Maroushek, who has quite a few accomplishments, and he didn't even run his first ultra until he was 48. It was only 3 months after a triple bypass. He's got an amazing partner who's also into the same running shenanigans, and he's a former Minnesotan who moved to Arizona to embrace that heat. And Aaron Barber also joins us. Recently won Elephant Mountain 50 miler and grew up in Michigan. So both these guys are from the great north. He's a big nerd, self-proclaimed Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Halo, anything. And he tried to go pro in triathlon before getting into trail and ultra running. And everyone knows Bryce Brooks. Well, Aaron once beat him in a sprint finish. So let's dive into it today, guys. So first off, why Cocodona? What brings you to it? It's both your first time doing it. So just fill me in on how you heard about it and why you want to do it.
Want me to go first? I guess I heard about it in the fact that I work for Aravaipa, and the first couple of years I'm responsible for getting all the trucks packed, and those first couple of years it required all my efforts and attention to get everything out there. But Steve was kind enough to allow me to run it this year, which I had always wanted to. But mainly just something different to challenge yourself, put myself way out of my comfort zone and see if I can do it.
What about you, Aaron?
I recently got into ultras, and when I started running ultras, that was really much when Cocodona was announced, and I knew I was going to do it someday. So I just did my first 100 miler in September, and I just said, why not now?
Cool. Yeah. And so, John, I want to dive into this. So you've seen the behind the scenes of what goes into making Cocodona happen. So you're packing these trucks. So what kind of menu do we have to look forward to this year? Is there any sneak peeks?
I would have to recluse myself from saying anything about what the menu is. Patty would probably not like that, but no, she's always putting forth so much effort to take care of all the runners from the front of the pack to the back, which can cover days in this event. So she's going to take care of us. Going to be plenty of opportunities to take in some delicious calories.
Yeah, and so while you've done a number of fixed time events and long efforts for sure. 117 miles in 24 hours is pretty crazy as well. 185 in 48 hours. What do you expect to be different about a 250 mile point to point race? What are you expecting out there?
Yeah, with the timed events are usually a pretty flat course. Out at Camelback Ranch for across the years, or at Nardini is where I've done most of them. So just the elevation, the climbing is going to be the big thing. I did the training run this last Saturday, and there's plenty of climbing, so that definitely taught me a few things to prepare myself for day one of Cocodona. But the one thing that does remain constant is just continuous forward movement, make the most of every minute, and fuel yourself and keep moving forward. Take care of yourself.
Cool. And Aaron, for you, what has kind of gone into this big 250 mile endeavor that you have going? I know we ran some miles across the years. I'm just wondering how training has been between New Year's and now with just a few weeks to go.
Training's been awesome. I've got a great coach, Pete Mortimer. So we've been really getting the vert in. That's been the focus lately. Right after New Year's, there was a little bit of a speed block, but recently it's all been volume and a lot of vert and really slowing it down. Fortunately, I've always been a pretty quick hiker, so try to use that to my advantage. And I love the hills, so I also did the training run, and I was impressed. I liked it. I had fun.
Yeah, coming from triathlons and really that efficiency, but also in a shorter time, is it quite a different changes strategy with just that, more concerted movement forward rather than more runnable miles, and you have some.
Yeah, for sure. I'm used to, like, for triathlon especially, it's mostly road and it's a lot of like upper zone 2 to zone 4 kind of stuff. And this is all zone 1, zone 2, which is a bit different, but still the same basis where you're just trying to, like John said, efficiently move forward.
Yeah. And so Pete got second in 2021. What advice has he given you that you can give us so that we can only hope to do so well?
Start slow and go slower, and get on top of nutrition early, and then stay cool as well, especially that first section. Fortunately, there's some water this year. I can't see it all drying up in the next 3 or 4 weeks, but I'll probably carry a filter and start early with keeping cool.
Cool. And so let's dive into what your plans are as far as in the crew and the pacing realm. So let's start with you, John. Who's going to be manning your crew?
Yeah, it's at this point really easy. Nobody. So I'm hoping that with my experience of doing multi-days, I've done 6-day events and no crew, of course, but and knowing all the Aravaipa staff and knowing a lot of local Phoenix runners that'll be out there either crewing others or working. So I'm going to try to do it all lone wolf. See what happens.
That's
Stay
awesome.
tuned.
So yeah, definitely. So is it very concerted effort to get all the drop bags right then so that you're kind of self-contained on anything you could need out there? Or
Yeah, and I guess I'm pretty fortunate that way. I kind of like to think of myself as like a running raccoon. I can eat anything, so I'm don't need a special diet. I can drink so I'm pretty easy to take care of, I think. So
Yeah.
I haven't really started working on the drop bags yet, but I'm just gonna kind of go into it and learn on the fly.
So what's the strangest thing or the funniest thing you've eaten during a race?
Oh God, I was at a 24-hour event over in Wickenburg. It was an event we had a couple of years ago, and I took a break and I would just leave everything on my table, and someone told me they got such a big laugh because I had a can of SpaghettiOs, I had jelly beans, I think like a Busch Light and a Coke. I mean, just the worst food possible sitting out on the table. So like I said, I'm just a dumpster diver when it comes to food. Yeah.
Well, if it works, I mean, it works.
It does. Yeah.
Results.
No GI issues. So knock on wood.
Yeah, and let's dive into our pro triathlete here. What's your crew pacing strategy, and do you have your nutrition a little more locked in than John over here?
I have a crew, and it's my wife. So she'll be, hopping around the state and meeting me at different aid stations. We have a van that I can sleep in, as opposed to the actual sleep station, so a little bit more comfort there. As far as food, I'm kind of on John's side where I've got the stomach of steel where I just kind of put everything in. But no, I'll try to focus on the good stuff. But between sports nutrition and real food, trying to find that balance.
Cool. Yeah. And so speaking of sleep, are you guys, other than some of the van naps, are you dirt nappers, or are you going to pencil out anything, or just kind of see how the race unfolds with something so long?
For myself this first year, I'm going to take full advantage of the sleep stations. I'm not going out and trying to do anything big. So just wanting to get out there and see the course and see what I'm in for this first year. So I plan to do as much sleeping as I can at the dedicated sleep stations, but certainly if I feel the need, a dirt nap isn't out of the question.
I love that. Yeah. Going out there and getting as much sleep as I can. That's the quote of the day right there. So run ultras for the sleep.
Yes.
All right.
And the food.
Are you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Food and sleep. And then are you pretty versatile, or are you going to try to plan out your sleep, Aaron?
That's actually like the part that I'm probably least comfortable with. And it's an unknown for me. I've kind of gone back and forth of trying to plan things, but trying to go through each section, the pace is going to be so different. I can't even like pencil in a time on when I'm going to be at these places and what time of day it's going to be. So it's going to kind of be a wing it type scenario, and we'll just kind of see how I feel and play it by ear. I've also never done anything longer than 100 miles, so I've never needed to actually sleep before. So, experiment during the race. That's what works, right?
Yeah. Coming from more regimented, I guess, training and stuff, is that something hard or something, or like anxiety inducing, or are you looking forward to that kind of wide open swath that you can cover 250 miles however you want to?
Oh no, I've always been a fly by the seat of my pants person. So even in triathlon days, it was I was self coached and I would just kind of wake up and do whatever workout I felt like that morning. Like, oh, today feels like a speed day. Today feels like an easy day. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
actually been a bit different having a coach that makes me do real things now.
yeah, cool. And so going into the race, what are you guys most nervous about, or what is something that maybe it's one of your weaknesses or something that you have some trepidations about headed in? John,
Yeah,
you can
for
start.
me, that weakness was definitely that training run, that climb, getting 10,000 feet in the first 37 miles is not my strength. So like we talked about earlier, just really have to survive that. And then later on in the race, I don't enjoy running in the cold. So as we start approaching Flagstaff, I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to have the right clothing at the right time to maintain warmth and keep that forward momentum.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Aaron?
Um, I'm actually excited for the climbs and the change
Hmm.
of terrain. The long flat sections is what really wears me out a lot. Um, the sleep and that's kind of unknown. So I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but we'll see how it goes. And then during my 100, my legs and fitness felt really good, but my ankle swelled up a ton and no real reason rather than or I guess just a lot of miles. So I
Yeah.
hope that doesn't happen again, but it's kind of always in the back of my mind. Like, what if it happens again? That I'm halfway through the race and feeling great, and then something out of my control goes through, and I finished it, but it wasn't fun by any means. Limping the last
Yeah.
marathon.
So you signed up for 2.5 times that distance.
Yeah,
Smart.
yeah, that's what.
A true ultra runner. Yeah. And so you guys both recently had eyes on that first 37 miles, and I think it's maybe lost or forgotten since it wasn't part of the course last year. Why don't, John, you start and just kind of give us some insight into what we're dealing with? What's the footing like, the terrain? And you already said 10,000 feet and 37
Yeah.
miles, and that'd be a hard 50K in itself.
Yeah, it's. I was telling Steve when we were done, we're sitting at the saloon. I go, we need to make that a race in itself, a 60K from the start to Crown King, because it would have to be one of the certainly the state's toughest and maybe the toughest in the country. But yeah, the first 11 miles when you're on the Black Canyon Trail and the first part of when you get off that is nice. It's runnable for the most part. But after that mile 10, 11, when you start climbing, old deserted mining roads, loose rock, a lot of cat claw, digging at your shins. So and then the water, even with it being cool, it was probably 55, 60 degrees by the time we really started climbing. I ran out of water with about 5 miles before I got to Lane Mountain. And so definitely I had 3.5 liters, which was shy of what they recommend, but I thought we'd be okay. But I'm definitely going to go 4, maybe 5. And there was enough running water that I think there will still be some on course on race day. So definitely I'm going to be carrying a filter. So definitely be prepared to carry a lot of water or to stop and filter water.
Yeah. And Aaron, what's the footing in the trail like? Is it pretty loose, rocky? Is it slow going? What's it like out there?
Very slow and it's very loose. Um, it's not just a gentle grade either. It's pretty pitchy. It can get pretty steep in some spots, and it's just slow. Like even the downhills and the descents, it's not like you can open it up and run really until you get to Crown King, because some of the descents are, 20+% going down, add in loose rocks and all that too. So I would just plan on um, like staying calm and kind of accepting the fact that it's going to take a really long time.
So the downhills are barely runnable at best too.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Really a training run because you didn't get to run too much of it. It's more of a training hike. So very, very little runnable in that first 33 miles up to Lane.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, and you guys both are in Arizona. So I I'm guessing no specific heat training because you're already training right where it's happening. Is
Right.
that
Yeah.
right? Nothing special?
Yeah, it's almost 80 degrees today. Our first 90s this weekend. So no, just
Cool.
doing our local training will get us acclimated for the race.
Yeah, okay. And so what are your overall goals for the race? It's beyond finishing. So my personal goal is always to immerse myself in the 3 day experience and not let anything like emails or texts or outside worries get in the way of just having that experience. So love to hear outside of that belt buckle what you specifically want to get out of it.
I guess for me, like I said, this first year, I really want to get to see the course, get to see parts of Arizona I've never been to, and yeah, really just, and I don't know if it's possible, but try to enjoy the run, try to have as much fun out there as I can, and try to live in the moment and make the most of it.
Yeah. What about you, Aaron? What do you have hope to take away at the end of the day?
Yeah, obviously, I'd like to finish, but I think aside from you can throw pace and place and all that out the window, but just execution. I'd like to, you know, execute to the best of my abilities in terms of like nutrition and pacing and just having a good time out there.
Cool. And so another big factor in the race is you do get tired. And while John's goal is to sleep as much as possible out there, uh, what kind of sleep deprivation experiences have you had in the past, John? And do you
Yeah,
expect to have a little bit of the same out there?
yeah. When I did the 2018 across the year 6 day, ended up with 440 miles, and to get to that, I was taking maybe 15, 20-minute naps, maybe 3 or 4 times a day. I know, like the first day, I think I went like 30 hours before I ever stopped. So yeah, I'm not going to try to push it that way, but definitely, I guess I'd run until I'm tired. I just listen to my body that way. If I'm starting to stumble around, then it's time to just stop and lay down, whether it's at a sleep station or a nice comfortable rock on the trail.
Yeah, are you a guy that pushes it into the hallucination stage in the
Oh yeah,
past?
yeah. I've seen Toucan Sam out there on course, and big holes that are on the trail that weren't even actually there. So yeah, I definitely get a little loopy when I push myself.
Are there any strategies you have that kind of pull yourself back to reality when you're in the midst of seeing something a little off out there?
No, not really. Just go with it. Enjoy it. Thankfully, they're not too scary of a hallucination. So yeah, I usually know that it's what's happening,
Mhm.
and so I just kind of shake it off and again just keep moving forward.
Yeah. What about you, Aaron? Have you ventured into the sleep deprivation realm before?
Almost none.
Okay, perfect.
So
What?
yeah, I'm just gonna kind of wing it.
Okay, cool. Are you expecting anything? Do you have Pete giving you any strategies or anything? Do you have anything you're going to try
We've
to
been
do?
talking a little bit about it, and then I'm expecting it because just knowing myself, I'm not one to just go like, oh, I'm a little tired, I'll take a nap. I'm like, I've always got that competitive spirit in the back of my head, so I
Mhm.
usually push myself to where I'm going to be in that zone.
Yeah. Do you think the goal will be, even if it gets a little rough and there's 5 or 6 miles to go before the van, that you'll be trying to push through to be able to sleep there, or are you comfortable about the dirt nap strategy as well?
Oh, I'm fine dirt napping. I'd prefer the van. It's another thing. Just kind of we'll play it by ear. If I'm not making like good forward progress, it might just be worth it to take a dirt nap.
Yeah. Okay. And then how are you guys spending the last 3, 4 weeks here leading up to it? Are you in the last week of your training? Have you kind of slowed down a little bit? Are you trying out any gear or food things? What do you got that you're tinkering with right now?
I'm just kind of continuing to just push through right to the end. I'm going to run the Whiskey Basin 91K next weekend, so it'll be a nice little trip around Prescott in a few weeks. But otherwise, my taper is the week before the race, and that's when I'm going to be busy here at work at Aravaipa packing all the trucks. So I won't be doing much running, but it'll be a lot of physical activity. I
Yeah.
sometimes joke that running the races is easier than preparing for them. So it'll might be nice to come race morning to just not be working and hop off
Yeah.
onto the trail.
Yeah, the race week is like your vacation.
Right, yeah, time off.
Yeah. What about you, Aaron? Are there any things you're tinkering with, figuring out gear, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty set on gear. This is my last big training weekend. Um, I'm actually going to be camping on course in Jerome and Sedona,
Nice.
and putting some miles in all weekend. And then I'll start to taper next week, just slowly, just a little less volume next week. Then I actually go to Boston for the marathon. I'm not running it, but I've got family and friends running it, so I'll be out there for some vacation, and then just kind of taper away to race day.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, excited to share some miles with you guys out there, and yeah, getting ready for this big old thing one more time. I can't believe I keep going back. It's a pretty special course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share as we wind this thing down?
Oh, again, something I mentioned to Steve Saturday night when we were waiting for the shuttle back to Phoenix, but I have renewed respect for anybody that's run this the first year, especially with that first segment. Not only that's run the race, but anybody that's ever completed the training run, I think is just amazing. So yeah, kudos to anybody that's out there towing the line, taking on this monster.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a fun party, but it's going to be well earned. So.
Definitely.
Yeah. Any parting words of wisdom or Star Wars quotes or anything like that, Aaron?
Not so much. I'm super excited. It's pretty much all I've been able to think about the last couple weeks.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And yeah, this is the men's first timer Cocodona 250 Aravaipa series. And I look forward to starting this race with you and seeing what happens.
See you out there. It's going to be a
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.